Over. I am the Martian ambassador.
Des Moines and all of Central Iowa, welcome to Mac's World Live. Mac's World is your world. Every day we talk about the issues and topics that matter most to you. And as always, it's your voice we want to hear in Mac's World. So join the conversation by calling 515-244-0077. And now, here's the host of Mac's World Live, J. Michael McCoy.
6 minutes after the hour, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Thanks for being here. It's Mac's World Live here on 99.3. The Truth. You may be shaking your head and thinking you're in some type of a deja vu dream, that there's a radio program on in the afternoon on the FM dial with Mac. It hasn't been that way for years. What's happening? Is the Wizard of Oz come and kidnap me? No, that was on 98.3. 98.3 is no more. If you push scan, you'll end up here. We're a newer station to Des Moines. Thank you for listening. I know you won't like everything, but I hope you sample enough of the menu, the different shows that we have, to know that this might be a station you'd like to listen to from time to time, maybe every day. 11 at night to 11 in the morning, some of the best national preachers and teachers you can find, also some local ones. And then 11 in the morning till 11 at night, social commentary. Myself, Steve Dace, Dr. Brown, Hank the Bible Answer Man, just some great programs. Your voice is always wanted in this show at 244-0077. We sure appreciate if you'd like to just call us up and ask us a question you might have. Otherwise, guess who didn't shut off his phone tonight? Sorry, guys. Oh, it's just Brian Leach. I'll call Brian later. So we appreciate you listening today, and we thank you for participating. As I said before, the phone lines are always open, 244-0077. My guests are Pastor Jon Anenson and Andy Hermanson from Hope. Beginning next week, we start a new program called Core. And it is a program to help develop. You've already got a relationship with Jesus. You believe in him. You're no longer a seeker. You're a follower. And you've decided you want to find out more of what God's will, what his plan is for your life. And part of that is to be a disciple, to help spread the everlasting love of Jesus Christ, person by person by person. And this is a course. It's a 12-week course that'll help you do that. It's available to men, women, young people, married people. You've already got a small group. It'd be a great place for it. You do not, under any circumstances, need to be a member or even attending Hope. There are many times people come in and take our courses, our Bible studies, and they never see a service. They come there in the Sunday evening for the class. They come in on Wednesday morning for the class, whatever it might be. Now, if you're a male and you're listening, I'll personally invite you to the group that we're going to have on Wednesday morning. 6 o'clock, hot breakfast. 6:30, the teachings by these pastors. 7 o'clock till 8 o'clock, small group. And you can't say you haven't been invited, Bob, because you've been invited.
Was that 6 a.m. he was talking about?
6
or 6 p.m.? 6 a.m.?
You got to really love Jesus to get up at
There's
that
two
early.
6 o'clocks, if you guys didn't know that.
Yes.
All right.
I heard.
So now, you heard me invite you, Bob?
Yes, I heard.
I invited Bob. You guys are instructors. I'm a facilitator. Mike, in the producer's room, you're invited. Ryan, you're invited too.
Whole gang's
Wow,
coming.
That's great.
Or at least invited.
Yeah.
Not in the whole gang. All right, day one, what happens?
So the whole class starts, obviously, as Andy said, the setup is similar to Alpha in the sense that we gather for a meal every week, and that's important because later on in the class we talk about being family and what do families do? They eat together. We also worship. There's also small group time. There's a teaching. So we're trying to bring in a lot of different aspects of how we grow into that 2.5 hour time. The topic of the first night is story, like Andy said, whereas a lot of classes will start out with, here's what you need to do to be a good Christian. We start out by telling a story, and we believe that is because we want to get to the heart. It's been said that story is the language of the heart. Mm-hmm. What do people love to do on the weekends more than anything else? Go to the movies.
Yeah, hear a story.
Right?
Yeah.
Movies or stories. We're captivated by them. People love Star Wars because it's a great story and it speaks to the deeper truth. So we start with the story because in God's story, we discover that life's not about us. Your sign that you have here in the studio, Mac, that it's all about...
Shock me, say something.
Well, I was thinking
the
the one...
Jesus in the front room.
Yeah, the Jesus in the front room.
It's all about me.
It's all about me. So it's all about God and who he is rather than us and what we can do. So we start with unpacking the story from kind of a 10,000-foot view, and from there, from the story, we discover our identity that our identity is disciples, family, and missionaries. And so the rest of the class then is, how do we live out those three primary identities? So again, it's not, here's what I should do. It's, this is who God says I am. How do I live like it's true?
Tell me those three again.
That we are family.
Okay.
We're brothers and sisters in Christ. We're God's children. We're family. We're disciples.
Okay.
We're called to follow Jesus, to follow the rabbi. And then we are missionaries, that we've been sent. As the Father has sent me, Jesus says, so I am sending you. And what if we open the Bible with that lens in mind and said, what would it look like to live, not just as church pastors or church staff, but as regular, ordinary, everyday Christians? How would my life look different if I believed that's who I was? And
if I really believed what I really believed, how would I act?
And we say our identity fuels our activity. That's what we say.
All right, so that's the first week. That and every one of these core classes includes a meal. And if you've never been to Hope, we have really good food.
Sometimes cooked by
me.
Yeah.
Well, and that's only for the staff.
The man.
I can't cook for 400.
I was going to say, you served me something on Thanksgiving that was pretty tasty.
That was good, wasn't
Pizza,
it?
Really
yeah,
good.
all sorts of stuff.
All right. So the next week, and by the way, I hate to say this. I don't want to. This may turn some people off, but I'm just going to tell you there's a little homework. You are sent away with a task to bring something back the next week.
You want to talk about
Not
that?
tangible.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. So, I mean, we believe, and you read the Gospels, I mean, for Jesus, life was the classroom, right? I mean, it's one thing to sit in the walls of a church building and learn, but I think Jesus used everything at his disposal to teach his disciples. So stories, right, that engage the context he was in, relationships, connections. And one of the things that I deeply appreciate about Core is it's not just the content, the lecture format. I mean, you get some information, there's an outline, you follow through, but then you're sent on this adventure to figure out, do I really believe this, and what does this look like in my life? And on top of that, this class is all about the basics of what it means to walk with Jesus. Well, part of that is being in relationships with other Christians, not just in your group, and not just having someone that's side by side walking with you, but really having somebody that's walking with you and guiding you.
Yeah, what I know about Core, because I'm going to go through it for the first time. What I know about Core is it kind of takes everything we learned about Christianity 101 that we learned in Alpha, and now we apply it to 2016.
Yeah.
Yep.
Put it in our lives. Okay, next day, chapter 2.
Talked about being story formed.
Story formed.
So we've got the story, and we kind of simplify it and break it down into 4 key acts. And every story, I mean, every story movie that we love breaks down these 4 chapters. It follows the same plot line. Everything was good. Something bad happened. Then a hero had to show up and rescue. And then, chapter 4 act 4 is everyone lived happily ever after. And that's true in our story. It's true in God's story. And that makes its way into our story. And so we talk about the collision of those things. What does it look like, again, to understand that heaven comes to earth? How do you even know what God's saying to you? And then what does it look like to respond in obedience to that? So what does it look like to apply the word to your life and be a part of that?
All right, day 3.
Yep. So now we're into the retreat. So the difference between Core and Alpha, the Holy Spirit retreat comes a little bit later in the course.
Yeah.
With Core, the retreat actually comes right away because it's so foundational. So the retreat is Friday night and then most of the day Saturday. Friday night we session 3, so we do 3 sessions in the weekend. Friday night session is called Identity, and this is really kind of the linchpin of the whole course. If Jesus says that we are his beloved, if we are loved unconditionally, as you say on the show a lot, if we are his beloved sons and daughters, then all the other identities, false identities that the world tries to give us or that we've accepted and said, well, that must be true of me. I use the analogy of sticky notes that we get these identities kind of stuck on us to say, you're ugly, you're no good, you're not wanted, you're whatever it is.
Yeah.
When we choose to believe that we are the beloved son or daughter, as Jesus was, as he came up out of the water as baptism, this is my son in whom I am well pleased. What if we actually believe that? And so then Saturday at the retreat, we unpack that, and there's an activity that we do called Life Map, where we look back and we have people write.
Is this where we do the timeline?
Yep, and we do a timeline. And essentially what we do is figure out where those false identities came from.
Okay.
And what were the key Yeah,
That's gonna dig deep.
get your waders on, because we're going to go deep. So you look back over your life and say, where was God even in the good times and in the bad times, and what is God trying to tell me about my story?
All right, and real quick, the third one.
And then Saturday afternoon at the retreat is called Dust, where we learn to follow in the dust of our rabbi, which is a rabbinical blessing.
And what's the dates for the weekends on this first go around?
22nd, 23rd is the retreat.
22 and 23.
Yep. And that's pretty
January.
essential. We would encourage, if you're going to take the class, the retreat's pretty non-negotiable.
Yeah, you got to at least go through the retreat.
Yep.
And after the retreat, if you decide not to, then so be it.
Sure.
Okay. Let's come up on our first break. Any questions, Frank?
No.
Okay. I just did that because he's playing with his phone again. Okay. You're listening to The Truth, part of the Truth Network. We are a network of 14 radio stations. We're not very big, but we're really, really serious about helping you live a better life through Jesus Christ. We do that through teachings. We do that through talk shows like this. We do this by opening up all kinds of churches. Every week we've got pastors on from all different kinds of denominations, all different churches across central Iowa. We do this so if for some reason you're unhappy where you're at, or maybe you're not churched, that you can hear from all different kind of pastors on all different kinds of ways to praise God and to learn how much He truly loves you. Do you know that? Do you know that God loves you? Do you know that you're a perfect wife, a perfect husband, a perfect son, a perfect daughter in His eyes? I hope you know that. You can find that out by taking this course called Core. We'll come back and tell you more right here, live on The Truth.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Hi, my name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on webcast1live.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
Rock and Prevention is celebrating 25 years of creating a caring community. We want to say thank you to the tens of thousands of Rock High School mentors that have carried our message of health, love, and encouragement to over 1.5 million children, teachers, and parents. Our mentors teach children methods and skills to prevent bullying and drug use. Thank you to all the school administrators, teachers, and counselors for their opportunity to serve you. Rock on, fair citizens, rock on! This is Pat McManus for Rock and Prevention, the Richard O. Jacobson Foundation, and this station.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
21 minutes after 4 o'clock, 4:21. Thank you for being here. Jon Anenson and Andy Hermanson, both pastors at Lutheran Church of Hope. Different campuses, different times. Today we're not talking about the church. We're talking about CORE. It's a class that we're introducing starting next week. It's a class that is it fair to say there will be 600 people taking this course in the next 12 weeks through Hope?
Potentially. I think it just depends upon the season.
Okay.
Yeah.
We had a question on chat, Bob. If you'd read that question, because I think that's a very, very good question.
And it has to do with CORE, and it's obviously people have to get together and be together. And the question is, what if you don't like people? What if you have a hard time being around other people?
Mm-hmm. And I would acknowledge that people can be hard. I mean, that's part of it. I happen to be wired as a flaming extrovert, so I thrive and get my energy from being around people.
Well, I'm an introvert, so
Yeah?
I
am
understand
too.
that. Yeah.
Not everybody's.
Here's what I've come to understand, and I think part of my journey, this has really helped me, is when we think the word spiritual discipline or spiritual exercise, right? We think Bible, we think prayer. Do we think community? You know, do we think being around people is something that builds us up and helps us? I would simply point back to say, sometimes it feels like I have to, even though I think it's a gift that God wants to give us. But look at the very nature of who God is himself, right? God, I mean, in the beginning, in Genesis 1, God made man and woman in their image, right? And when you talk about in his image, at some point there's a plural in there, and you have to ask, well, where does that come from? Well, it's because God is 3 in 1. So wherever God goes, he's got his own party with him, right? Because
God is in community with himself.
God is in community. There's always there's 3 in 1 in the very nature, and we're made in the image of God. So whether it feels like it or not, I would argue that we have been called and designed to be in relationship with other people. Does that mean it's easy? Absolutely not. Does it mean it's beneficial when there are healthy people involved? Yeah, I think
some people have some panic and anxiety issues. Some of our vets, it's going through PTSD, etc.
Yeah.
Some people just have panic issues being around people.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think it's important to be sensitive to that. And a part of CORE is getting to where did that come from? Maybe it's an obvious thing if they're a veteran or something.
So if they come to this, there will be a way for them to delve into what the nexus or genesis of that is.
Let me give you a real-time example, too. I mean, last fall, the West Des Moines campus, we had a mom walk into our class. There's 70 people or so meeting in our chapel, and she walked in that night and just had this look on her face. And I made some crack from the front, joking about how the Lutherans wanted to sit in the back. This woman was sitting in the very back row. I mean, I could hardly make eye contact. I felt like there was a lot of distance. And afterwards, somebody came up to me and they said, well, do you understand that the last time she was in this room, it was for the funeral of her 3-year-old? Context is everything.
Yeah.
Right? And so to understand that, once I was made aware of that fact, absolutely. I think sometimes, and this is part of the dynamics we'll probably talk about too, when you get into discipleship, it's really easy to think that it's always going to be comfortable. But I would argue, and I think biblically speaking, I see the stories that Jesus told and the stories he enacted and lived with his disciples. Growth comes through challenging circumstances.
Hardship,
so to have
yeah.
growth without some resistance, I think is I don't think that's the invitation that Jesus is offering us.
Now,
but is he sensitive? Absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah.
Now, the truth of the matter is, if you want to come in and take this class and not have anything to do with any other people, I suppose you can do that. But you're robbing yourself.
Right.
It's like going to get a hot fudge sundae and all you eat is the cherry.
Right.
But I understand how there are some people out there who do not want to converse with other people.
Right.
This is taught with you guys or another live pastor, and then there is a time you're in small group. I'd hate to see anybody miss that small group time, but it's okay. Nobody's going to make you talk.
Challenge by choice.
Yeah, nobody's gonna require you to say anything, especially if you take the time to tell your group leader. That would be me if you were in my group. I really don't want to. I don't want to be called on. I don't want to talk.
Absolutely.
Fine.
Yeah. I think about Jesus' time on this earth too, when he was kind of gaining popularity and some people loved him and some people hated him and there was crowds that followed him. There was his inner circle, right, of 3. There was the 12.
Yep.
There was at one point the 72, the 128, whatever. There was just people in all sorts of different, quadrants around, zones around him. Some people just were checking it out. Some people kind of hung around the outside and just listened. And then gradually, as people moved in closer, right, you were closer to Jesus. And I think that's the same today. There's people that are on the outskirts checking things out, and that's totally fine. We'd rather have them there than not there.
Was there some people that came for the lunch?
Yeah, for the free lunch, yes. For the loaves and fishes,
right.
Yeah.
By the way, we didn't mention this. This is free.
Yeah.
The meal.
It costs you a $5 book, and even that you can have.
Yeah, I'll buy the book.
Sure.
So
charge it to Mac.
There's no class here. There's no cost for this class. I don't want you to think for 1 minute that for any reason your financial situation should play into this. And I mean that on the book. If you can't afford the book, I'll buy it. If I have to buy 100 books, we'll buy that. Don't let anything stop you from being with other people in a room learning about how you can walk with Jesus and how much he loves you.
Now, I got a real question.
What, you don't think
as opposed to the fake ones?
Well,
yeah,
no.
I've been asking.
No, I'm talking
here?
for me.
Oh, okay. Good.
Because I've been...
That's code for buckle up.
Buckle up.
No.
There you go. Yeah.
No, it's should be a softball. Let's talk witness.
Okay.
Is there... I suppose at some point you're going to get to it.
Yep.
That witness is a natural result of the connection with Christ and connection with His Spirit.
You're talking about mission. You're talking about evangelism.
Exactly.
Spreading the kingdom. Yeah.
Yep.
In your mind, is there anything more important than personal appeal? Because I would suggest to you 3 instances that I'm aware of. Andrew giving his brother Peter a personal appeal. Come listen.
Come and see.
Come and see, yeah.
Philip giving Nathanael a personal appeal. And then Christ told him about him. He interpreted, or I shouldn't say interpreted a dream, but he was telling Peter about...
I saw you under the tree.
Or Nathanael about under the fig tree.
Yeah.
The woman at the well went and told her people.
Her life was changed.
Come listen.
Yeah.
Is there, I suggest to you Christ's greatest audience was an audience of 1. Is there anything that we can do in our lives and community than single out a person that we know and just make a personal appeal to them?
I would say that that's really important, and witnessing or evangelism, whatever you call it, happens a lot of different ways. So we don't want to put God in a box and say it can only happen one way. I've seen it happen through one-on-one invitation. By far, the majority of people that are at Hope are there because they were personally invited. And so not because we took out a big newspaper ad or did a TV spot or something. All those things are good and can happen, but we just never done that. I also think that we miss out on one of the great opportunities to witness when we don't engage in community. And I think something that it is so powerful, like they'll know we're Christians by our love. I think when we engage in authentic Christian community and form the kind of Christian community that you would feel comfortable inviting your non-believer friends or unchurched friends to, and they would be like, wow, this is awesome. This is great. And then later on realize that you're Christians.
Yeah.
That's powerful because they are getting to experience the church before whether they even decide if they believe it or not. So it's a belong, then believe. Whereas the church maybe in the past in a more modern, enlightenment mindset would say, you need to believe these things and then you can be in our club. I think a much more powerful witness is to say, we're going to love you so much, we're going to wrap you up in love, and we're going to serve together, and we're going to find our purpose together, and then you can decide if you want to believe.
And we see this rooted in our identity. I mean, what does Jesus say about all of his kids in the greatest sermon ever preached? He says, you are salt and light.
Yeah.
He's not saying, oh, you should go out and do this, right? He's saying, this is who you are.
We say one of the greatest compliments that we could ever receive as Christians is somebody coming up to you and saying, I don't know what it is about you, but I want that.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. That's
I think about 1 Peter
yeah.
where it talks about have a reason for the hope that you have, right?
All right, we've got 4 minutes till the next break.
That was a real question, by the way.
That was a good question.
No, I was just.
You keep encouraging
I'm not
him.
picking on Mac's questions. He was just requesting me to be a little silent and let you guys talk.
All right, week 4, 5, and 6. Can you put them together in about 3 minutes?
Go for it.
Yeah, so I mean, the first 5 sessions are all about where has your story and where does your story interacted with God's story. So you got to know both those and kind of look at the collision of those. Coming out of the retreat, though, we're understanding discipleship is a response to God's grace. So if God has done all these things and changed literally your identity, then what does it look like to live and respond to that grace the ways that he's designed you and wired you? So we start talking about things like spiritual disciplines, which, some people have a hard time with the word discipline, again, on their background and kind of where they're at. So spiritual exercises, but, ways to strengthen and to grow and develop character, but also, just depth as a human being.
Let's also remember, and I learned this the hard way, but God teaches us through discipline.
Yeah.
If we don't have any discipline in our life, we probably haven't surrendered.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Discipline is a very
That's
biblical
helpful.
thing,
Yeah.
right? Hebrews 12 would tell us all about that. But, in the culture we're in, that people wrestle with words and what do they mean, and there's baggage, and I get where that comes from.
Okay.
But one of the other things we look at then is this idea of church. Most of us have been around churches or have gone to churches. I mean, whether you're a Christian or not, people have an understanding of an opinion about what the church is. And we want to pull that apart a little bit and talk about the church is not the building, right? It's not a particular denomination. It's not a particular type of worship style or anything like that. And just say it's God's people, right, whose identity has been changed through his gift of salvation. And that looks like we gather together at times, and then we're scattered. You're the church, whether you're in a radio studio, working at Principal downtown, or sitting in worship. So we look at Acts 2 quite a bit and talk about that. And then we talk about, the church gathered becomes extended family. We talk about oikos, not a Greek yogurt, but the Greek word for household, extended family. What does it mean to be in community? And then we talk about salt and light. What does it mean to be the church scattered? And how are you redeeming and helping, this world, helping God put the world back together wherever you are?
Yep.
I'll never forget, I had Luis on here from the missions, and I made the comment a couple times during the show, I probably am never going to go on a mission. I'm not comfortable with that whole thing.
Let me talk about that.
And a woman called up and said, Mac, you're on a mission right now. A mission doesn't have to be in Africa. It doesn't have to. And I thought, wow.
Yeah.
Because I probably won't ever go overseas on a mission or anything like that. So if you're working at Wells Fargo, you're on your mission.
Absolutely.
I had somebody ask me once, I have 3 job offers. Which one do you think God wants me to take? He said he doesn't care as long as you do his will.
He's going to be in all of them.
Yeah.
Quick, roll that last name with the R's.
Oh, it was Luis Arredondo. No.
Arredondo.
Arredondo.
It's kind of fun to say. Yeah.
Also, by the way, one of the most handsome human beings I've ever laid eyes on.
He is a good-looking man. Yeah.
Luis, that was for you.
That was for you. All right, and we're going to have Luis back on one of these days, too. I didn't decide that till just now, but since we're talking about him, I got to invite him on again. But he's a great missions guy. What a heart. What a heart.
Yeah.
Man, he's got a great heart. All right, let's take our break, and when we come back, we'll talk about week 7 through 12. The course is called CORE, C-O-R-E. We'd like you to come and be a part of it. If you've never been invited to church, I'm inviting you. I'm asking you. Just try it once. If you don't like it, don't come back. I'd like you to try it through the retreat, which is 3 weeks. And I think at the end of that 3rd week, you're going to not only know how much God loves you, but how much we love you, and how much there are people out there who just want to see the best for you, who want to help you get rid of those hurts, habits, and hang-ups, and walk a walk that Jesus intended you to walk. We're coming back. We're live. Bob's here. Frank's here. Ryan's here. I'm here. The most important person is you. Thanks for listening to The Truth.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast 1 Live.
I'm Brian Leach, owner of Service Legends, and my position is Chief Talent Officer.
I'm Nicholas Wonderscheid.
I am Bernie Hobbs,
And I'm the Service Manager.
Marketing Director and Client Relations Manager.
Everything that we do is about ensuring that we exceed your expectations.
Our clients are important to us. 100% satisfaction.
We're not just focused on heating and cooling. That's the easiest part of our job, actually, is fixing furnaces and air conditioners.
Everyone that we come in touch with, we want to improve lives.
Bottom line is, we've got our installation guarantees, 25% energy savings guarantee, comfort guarantee, temperature selection guarantee, property protection guarantee.
100% satisfaction guaranteed, fixed rate or it's free.
All of those guarantees are backed up with a 100% money-back guarantee to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that you get what you're after.
Just fixing the problem today. If they have another problem 5 days down the road, it's still fixed rate or it's free.
We use what's called straightforward pricing. Our technicians are going to give you an exact to-the-penny price on what it's going to take before they move forward with any repair. That way you know what to expect.
It's the same price every day.
No surprises.
If you get off work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you come home, you realize that, oh, my furnace is broken. Now you need to call somebody out that night. You shouldn't have to pay more for that.
We're guaranteeing service 24/7.
We run afternoons, evenings, nights, weekends. We're staffed to work that.
Phone rings at 3 in the morning. You'll get one of our representatives answering the phone every time.
We're not sending you out to Timbuktu in some call center. It's our Service Legend team members, our mission control team.
I'll take a call anytime.
And then they answer the phones the same way during the day as they do at night.
It's a great day at your service company. How can we make you smile?
That's the only way to provide true 24-hour service.
When you're able to let somebody actually live in their home safely when they weren't able to do that before, where they don't have to stay up at night and worry about, is the heat going to come back on? Are we going to freeze the pipes? Is the baby in the room next door going to be sick because they got too cold? When you're able to help somebody overcome challenges like that, that's impacting a life. That makes a difference. I get goosebumps thinking about it.
I love the team. I love the people that I work with.
We have fun, but we work hard.
I call them my ambassadors of legendary service. If you could just envision what that is, that's who we're sending to your home.
They literally will call in, pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want to talk to your manager. And I get on the phone, they're like, that technician that was at my house was the greatest technician ever. That's cool to me.
We want to brighten people's days.
Every person that we have going into the house has gone through an extensive background check.
Drug testing, we have a very thorough interview process that 1 out of 140 people make it through.
If we promise you something, that's what you're going to get, no matter what.
We're here when you need us to protect the safety and comfort of your family.
If you're not happy, we're gonna make it right.
If we're willing to put 100% money back guarantee on what we do, what type of work do you think we do?
Give us a call. We're there for you 24/7, 365 days a year.
Enough said.
For 4:38:22 before the top of the hour, Hank, the Bible Answer Man, at 5 o'clock. If you want to get in and ask him a question, it's live, coast to coast. Call now. 1-888-ASK-HANK. 1-888-ASK-HANK. All right. We had a question what was the question we talked about? We said we were going to come back and ask?
Where the retreat?
Oh, the retreat. The retreat is at Hope.
Yep.
West Des Moines.
In West Des Moines.
Yeah, there's no, you don't have to get a motel room. You're not going to get taken out of town on a bus.
It's
right
not an
there.
overnight thing. You go home and come back.
Yeah,
Friday
you come
night and Saturday morning, afternoon.
Yeah, you got a dinner on Friday night and then the class, and then Saturday morning you have a breakfast, and Saturday noon there's a lunch.
Yeah, the core is taking place at Hope Des Moines down on Ingersoll, at Hope Ankeny, at Hope West Des Moines, and Hope Johnston Grimes. So if you're in any of those communities, you can go to the nearest one.
Yeah.
But then all of those come together
for the retreat.
West Des Moines. Yeah.
All right. So you kind of went through weeks 1 through 5.
Mm-hmm.
What happens at week 6, 7, and 8 in that area?
So Andy touched on that a little bit. Once we get through kind of discipleship as a response to God's grace, then we spend a couple weeks on church and the different ways of not just coming to church, but being the church. And then we get into Salt and Light and talk a little bit more about evangelism, how that's rooted in our identity. A lot of people think sharing my faith, it's so scary, it's so awkward. And so we asked the question, what if evangelism wasn't something that you tack on to your busy schedule? What if it's just who you were? And wherever you went, you just exuded Jesus without even trying. It was just who you are. Like wherever I go, I'm a Hawkeye fan. And then that's just, I can't help but talk about it. It's just who I am.
Thank you, Jon Anenson.
Sorry to bring that up.
Coming in today. The rest of the program will be with Andy.
But it
Hermanson.
is true.
I'm not a
isn't it?
bandwagon fan either.
It's true that we share the things we love with the people that we really love.
Naturally.
Movies.
Yeah.
I mean, Star Wars is such a great example.
Everybody's
right?
talking about it.
Restaurants.
Yeah.
So I mean, in some ways it's different, but yet in some ways it's not.
Now, if you would have said Cornhusker, you would have been host of the show.
Yeah. No, I'm not going to go there. But
and I want to say that we're not going to pair you up and put white shirts on you and send you door to door, right? I mean, there's none of that.
None of that to your house, Bob. No,
Yeah.
but there's lots of different ways of doing that. We try to come at the topic of sharing your faith and witnessing from a very natural, grace-filled, this is what I get to do. Why would I not share about the thing that is the most important to me? And then really we end the whole class, we actually come full circle and talk about being emotionally healthy. There's a book called Emotionally Healthy Spirituality by Pete Scazzaro. He's a pastor in New York City. And the reason we end the class there is we talk about, okay, you could come out of this class thinking, oh man, here's all these things I need to do to be a better Christian or to be a disciple. We end the class by saying, how do you do this in a healthy way? God did not design us to be overwhelmed, burned out, busy Christians. He designed us to live life in rhythm, in a healthy rhythm of work and rest. And what does it look like to not just work and rest in a healthy rhythm, but also to dig deep in those things in your life that may be sabotaging your growth? And what I say is, in that last week, potentially the most destructive thing to our spiritual lives is not alcohol or addictions or a lot of the moral sins that people think of. The most dangerous thing in 2016 toward becoming a full-time follower is busyness, which is the opposite of what a lot of people think. If I'm going to be a good Christian, I need to do 17 things in the church, be in 12 Bible studies, and get. Jesus wants me to be really busy. You go back to the story of Mary and Martha, right? More than anything, Jesus wants you to be with him and to have that intimacy. So that's really where we end the class is, how do you do that? And then the whole class wraps up with them creating an action plan. You're going to leave the class with a personalized action plan of what you're going to do. So you don't walk out of the class going, well, there's another binder on the shelf. I've taken another class, taken the notes, but what am I going to do the next 3 to 6 months?
A couple key moves you want to make
to live this out.
And hopefully you choose to create a relationship with someone in that group, with your host, one of the pastors, that should you want to be held accountable for that action plan, there's someone who could do that in a loving, mature, supporting way.
Yes.
You may just want to walk away and put the binder on the shelf.
Right.
The message I'm trying to get across is when you're done, you're done. It's between you and God at that point. Hopefully you've met another 5 or 6 ladies that you can form a small group with, or another 3 or 4 couples, or some men that you now can join a Bible study or join a small group. I have very rarely seen anybody walk away from one of our extended classes, meaning 10, 12 weeks, not be changed.
Yep.
Not be changed.
You will get out of it what you put into it. And I know that sounds cliche, but it's especially true of core because of the take-homes.
Yeah.
What I actually say the first night is it's touchy.
Yeah, don't touch it.
I won't touch it. What's more important as core is what you do Monday through Saturday.
Yeah.
Sunday night you'll get some teaching, but what you do outside of the class is more important.
Now, I have to say, and if I'm absolutely wrong on this, go ahead and rebuke me on air. That's okay. I've had a couple guys that I've asked to come to this class who have actually pushed back on the homework part. I've said to them, I'll help you. I'll catch you up. We'll get together a little bit, 5 minutes before the morning, kind of give you an idea what you were supposed to do. I'll give you my cheater notes, and then come participate. Because I know by the 4th or 5th week, they'll be doing their own homework.
Tell them what the first homework assignment is.
So the first homework assignment is you get to pick your favorite movie ever and watch it.
Really?
Yeah.
Because God's story shows up everywhere.
So we think about homework as like, oh, what a drag, homework, like school. We try to make it fun and exciting, but here's the thing. I even though I'm a Lutheran, there's a lot of grace. Here's where my challenge would come in. I had somebody come up to me a couple years ago after taking the class and say, man, this isn't just a class. This discipleship stuff is like requires your whole life. And I go, now we're getting something.
Yeah.
Now we're getting something.
People think that I can just follow Jesus and I can just keep going along without any, hardship or difficulty or challenge. It's like, he never said it was going to be easy.
Right.
He said the gift is free.
He said it was tough.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think small groups is a very important component of our churches. How do we encourage them sometimes to not be too cliquish.
Remember that Jesus is the reason you're there, nobody else.
Well, sure, I understand that, but
I think that's the answer. Jesus is the most important person in that small group. No leader, no facilitator, no. Wouldn't you say?
I think a lot of it has to do with inward-outward focus. The groups that we see that have an inward focus that are there for what am I going to get out of it? How am I going to get fed? Those sorts of things. Those are the ones that die. The ones that last and survive and grow are the ones that are pointed outward to say, we have a mission that's bigger than us. And that's what drives us back then to the Word. I have to read my Bible this week because we went out and I met some people and I was sharing my faith and we were serving them. And I want to learn more about how Jesus did that instead of, let's fill in our blanks for the Bible study this week.
Yeah.
You see, there's a purpose outside of yourself. Those seem to be the healthiest.
So what's the craziest answer you got with your favorite movie?
Dumb and Dumber.
Dumb and Dumber.
Dumb and Dumber.
Some lady yelled out Dumb and Dumber. A lady did.
Yeah.
I think somebody said Dirty Dancing once.
Dirty Dancing, yeah. Titanic.
But you're saying God's in all of those.
If you watch any movie, any story, read any book, at its core, no pun intended, it follows the same plot line that Andy mentioned.
Yeah. What was that? Good, then bad, then hero, then lived happily ever after. Bob, what's your favorite movie of all time?
Well, the one I really like. See, I never buy DVDs.
Okay.
But I did go out and buy one that I thought was a great movie, and that was Book of Eli.
Ooh, I love that movie.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that movie.
Frank, what's yours?
I don't really have one.
Frank.
See, here's what I love about...
Okay. If somebody had to strand me on a deserted island and I could have one movie, I don't know. I'd probably say Dirty Harry, the first Dirty Harry.
It's a hard question to answer.
It is.
And one thing that's incredibly probing under John's leadership, when he's developing us as a team, one of the questions he asked that stopped us all in our tracks was, if you could be any movie character, who would you be and why? If you want to get to know something about people, ask them that question.
Well, my favorite movie of all time is Elvis Presley, Girl Happy. Now, I
haven't seen that one.
I just doubt. I'll watch it again.
Now, what does that say about Mac? That's the question. Yeah.
It means I like Elvis Presley.
Okay.
I like the Elvis Presley movie where he's swimming in the water and he comes up in the canoe and somebody throws a guitar in his arms and he starts playing, and the next shot his hair is immediately dry.
Yeah.
I want to thank you guys for coming here today.
Thank you.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Going through Core. Yeah, anytime.
Thanks
You're
for
welcome
having us.
anytime. You're welcome alone, individually, with whoever. This is a great place to just talk about Jesus. Next break, 2 minutes. We're coming back. The question is in your hands. What are you going to do with the beginning of 2016 to walk closer with Jesus? Did you get an answer today?
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Hi, my name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on Webcast1Live.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
Rockton Prevention is celebrating 25 years of creating a caring community. We want to say thank you to the tens of thousands of Rock High School mentors that have carried our message of health, love, and encouragement to over 1.5 million children, teachers, and parents. Our mentors teach children methods and skills to prevent bullying and drug use. Thank you to all the school administrators, teachers, and counselors for their opportunity to serve you. Rock on, fair citizens. Rock on. This is Pat McManus for Rockton Prevention, the Richard O. Jacobson Foundation, and this station.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast 1 Live.
10 minutes before the top of the hour Salem Radio Network news. And then, of course, we have Hank, the Bible Answer Man. You know, Frank, I think you should do a show that's called Frank, the Bible Answer Man.
That's a good idea.
Because don't you think you could... I mean, you're pretty versed on the verse. That's why we call you the verse.
That's true.
Maybe one day that I'm gone, it'll be Stump Frank. What do you know? But you better watch out, because when we had Reverend Johnson on, and the guy called in, I can't remember his name now, neat guy, called in and asked Reverend Johnson if 666 is the actual biblical number that represents the accuser. And Johnson knew that it was 616.
Sure.
That it had been, misinterpreted in some Greek language, and actually, and nobody knows that. Nobody knows that it's really 616.
And that was a caller that called in.
Yeah, and I know that guy. He's a great guy. He's a wonderful Christian.
Apologetic.
He was a Christian talk show host in California for years.
Jon Stewart.
Thank you, Jon Stewart. All right, so what'd you learn today, Frank?
Well, I'm still got expectations on my mind, but besides that, I learned that an apple has a core, and we need to get down to the core issues of people's lives and not the superficial.
Okay. Robert, what'd you learn?
Well, I mentioned this during the short break, but the whole idea of discipleship is simply to die to yourself. And that's one of the hardest things we could possibly do. Mm-hmm. Let the Lord lead us and not do anything in and of ourselves. And so that's the toughest thing. And I think if you can do that, and it's a process, and you can't do it all on your own. The Lord has to do it in you.
You know, I remember, and I've said this before on the air, part of my testimony. Frank, move this way a little bit. I've said this before, that if somebody asked me if I was a Christian, I would say, no, you people are weak, you're soft, you're powerless, meaning they have surrendered. And then I'd say, I'm Episcopalian, thinking that I was actually making a statement that made sense to anybody. Well, what I realized after I surrendered to Christ, there's so much power in being powerless. Because now you've got God's power. Before, when I had my power and I thought I was powerful, I wasn't jack.
Right.
I've heard somebody describe it as we learn more in the dark sometimes than we do the light. Because, like, if we're in a cave or we're in a dark, let's say at the bottom of the ocean, and we're going along a feeler line, we're trusting. We're not relying on our own sight, our own sound, our own visuals. We're just trusting that rope we're pulling is going to get us to safety. So a lot of times we're in darkness on certain issues, but if we will go with that and we'll just follow that rope line and quit and block our senses out that Satan's trying to bombard us with, Christ is going to teach us a lesson at the end of that darkness.
I heard something the other day. I don't know if I'm going to remember this right. Now help me, Bob. You'll probably know what I'm trying to say here. There is no such thing as darkness if there is a pinhead full of light.
Yeah, that's
all right.
Correct.
And there's no such thing as, now I got to think about this. There's no such thing as darkness if there's simply a pinhead of light.
Wasn't it Paul was getting on that when he was here?
Maybe help me out.
He was talking about levels of light and darkness that our eyes can't perceive. Something about the band in which we can see. It's like bandwidth on...
There's always light there.
There's always light, but what our eyes can particularly pick up, because we can't see the celestial fight that's going on outside of us. We can see this narrow band of vision. And if our eyes was to be opened up this much wider than they would normally be, how much could we see that's going on around us that we can't perceive?
And I remember the other part of that now is, and with that pinhead of light, you have begun to destroy darkness. Darkness cannot be complete. It cannot be whole. And more importantly, it can't be victorious.
Well, what does light have to do with darkness? Christ tells us that what does the righteous have to do with unrighteous? What does the light have to do with darkness? So, but it comes down to this earthly walk. of walking by faith, not by sight, defying what Satan is trying to bomb our senses with, what we see, what we hear, what we sense, what we smell, what we taste, what we touch, and rely on the faith in the Word of God. And it's like feeling that rope line and ignoring everything else.
Yeah.
So you any closer to coming taking core with me?
Probably not.
Okay. All right, at least I asked. I'm trying to get you there. Ryan, you want to come take core with me? 6 o'clock Wednesday mornings. You'll be done by 8. Is that too early for you to get up? No? Oh, he said no. See, he had an easy out there. Yeah. And what's your excuse, Junior?
I leave Mama alone as enough as it is.
Oh, yeah, you need to be there for your mom, especially early morning. So you're a good son. You're a good son. All right. Coming up tomorrow, we had the opportunity to meet a really neat guy a few weeks ago. His name is Steven Seagal. No, not that Steven Seagal. This is a man who has a home health care business. He and his wife, they homeschool their children. He is engaged in 2016. He is active. He is a disciple. He is a missionary. He is a businessman, and he's not afraid to ask the tough questions. And you two are going to have him tomorrow. I'm not here tomorrow. So the two of you will have Stephen tomorrow. And I would look forward to you guys putting together a good list of questions with him and learn more about this young man's heart. I say young man. He's probably 35. But to me, anybody under your age, Frank, is young. So Steven Seagal makes his second visit here tomorrow. And then next week, we've got a full week lined up of shows. Here's the point I want to get to you. I know you're going to think this sounds hokey, but if you've known me long enough, you know this is true. Listener, you at home, in the car, wherever you are right now, this is your radio station. Max World is your show. If you ever want to come in here and lay down your passion or challenge one of ours, you are invited and you will be treated as a guest. I don't think you've ever seen me treat anyone poorly. Even when I had all those atheists in, I still was nice. This is your show, your radio station, your ministry. Don't be shy. If you don't want to use your real name, we can change it. You can be Bob or Sally. If you don't want to be on camera, we'll shut them off. Mm-hmm. But if God is stirring something within your discipleship, if God is saying, step out, and you don't like to be in front of people, it's just nerve-wracking to even talk about it, but you can be in a room here with Frank and Bob and I and Ryan and Chris and be among friends, brothers in Christ. I want you to pray about that. What are you passionate about? If it's the gospel, what about the gospel are you passionate about? That's your favorite subject, and I know you could come and be a great guest on this show. I'm just telling you, you're always welcome. Until I see you again, please remember something important. Forgive. It may be tough. It may be the hardest thing you've done. But remember, as you forgive, you shall be forgiven. I'll see you in church.
Yeah, that's a very safe topic. Is Karen coming in today, right? Yeah, and we're making pizza. We're going to eat afterwards.
Afterwards?
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't do me any good.
I know.
You did it on purpose, didn't you?
Well, not for you, no, but I did it on purpose because it's such a distraction. Yes.
Well, what do you think this is about? You?
No, it's about him.
Right.
In fact, I love that.